A mysterious clown heads out into the Halloween night, looking to kill anyone that he comes across.
Terrifier.
So, since I already reviewed All Hallows Eve a while back, and with Terrifier 3 coming out soon, next month actually, I figured it's time to get back into reviewing the Terrifier stuff. And that isn't me trying to chase an algorithm or anything like that. I'm just a massive Terrifier fan. I don't pretend that these are amazing, groundbreaking, movies, but I love them nonetheless. I suppose I could ask the question, is this an overrated franchise? My answer would be no. But I'm admittedly kind of biased. Now, here's an opinion that I do have. Art the Clown is this generation's Freddy Krueger. I stand by that claim. I mean, come on. In the 80s and 90s, Robert Englund was a goddamn rock star. And I see that in David Howard Thornton. I mean, when was the last time we saw a slasher villain explode the way that Art has? So yeah, obviously, I'm an Art the Clown fanboy as well, but we will get back to that. Like everything so far in the franchise, Damien Leone wrote and directed Terrifier. I mean, this is his baby after all, and he's a very hands-on guy. He's also credited as producer, editor, and special effects. And for the cast, we've got Jenna Kanell, Samantha Scaffidi, Catherine Corcoran, I don't know, I doubt I pronounced that right, Jesus Christ. And of course, David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. Now, this is definitely a slasher film, almost to its detriment. It is a pure and, undistilled ode to the 80s splatter classics. I mean, in the credits, Damien Leone thanks Wes Craven, Tobe Hooper, and George Romero, his fallen heroes. The story here is super simple. In fact, much of the film's criticism over the years stems from that. It almost has, in my opinion, it almost has a spontaneous feel, and I like that. There isn't a lot of character development here, but I'm actually okay with that as well. To me, the Terrifier films are just basically showcases for Art the Clown. And like I said, despite all the criticism, I think it works, man. You have a mysterious, maniacal clown with no backstory whatsoever. He just likes to kill people, man. This is his show. I'm not really sure, that a bunch of character development would have helped, in my opinion. That said, I mean, there's a little, the opening scene shows a talk show with an extremely disfigured woman who survived Art the Clown. Barely. The makeup work here is not super convincing, but again, I'm okay with it. I think it was going for a jaw-dropping, disturbing feel, but it just looks kind of silly. But again, it works, and that goes for some of the other gore effects here. But they're all practical, and it's just a lot of fun. So Damien Leone might be limited with what he can do, right? But he's got a lot of heart, and for me, that just goes a long, long way. So now, like I mentioned earlier, it's Halloween night, and Tara and Dawn are winding down after a Halloween party, and they have caught Art's eye. He follows them to a pizza place, and it's a great scene, right? Showcasing David Howard Thornton's clown acting chops, really. Now, I should mention, in case you maybe haven't seen any of these movies, Art doesn't talk, which I guess he's almost like a clown mime combination. And this works surprisingly well. David Howard Thornton had actually, previously worked as a mime. I'm not sure exactly when, but he's a jack of all trades type of actor, really. And it's a huge part of why he was selected to play Art. Back at the pizza place, he sits there leering at Dawn and Tara. Tara is understandably uncomfortable, but Dawn thinks it's funny and walks over to him. So then she sits on his lap and takes a selfie, which is some pretty sweet foreshadowing for a later scene in which Art does the same thing with Dawn. I mean, sort of, right? It's a now infamous scene involving a rusty hacksaw, and honestly, it pairs perfectly with that one scene from Bone Tomahawk. You know the scene, I think. So yeah, Art doesn't really care for Dawn, but he does seem to take to Tara. She's sweet and cute and not loud and obnoxious like Dawn. He seems to be drawn to these kinds of people, as you will see later again in the movie, but you also see how unpredictable he is. And this just adds to Art's mystique. You can't really figure him out. And the rest of the movie is basically just him setting his sights on Tara, while just splattering his way through everyone who accidentally crosses paths with him. Just for his sheer enjoyment. And this is what I love about Terrifier, honestly. You don't really know what Art will do next, or who he will kill, or how he will kill them. And speaking of the kills, there is never a wasted kill. Another reason why I like these movies. Art is genuinely a sadistic bastard. You won't see him just like stab or slash anybody. No, this is not a lazy clown. I mean, come on, the man has work ethics, you know? He would rather saw someone in half or make a jack-o'-lantern out of their head. Another thing that I remember being criticized was the look of the movie. Many saying that it just looks cheap and ugly. First of all, this is a very low-budget film. You gotta realize that, with a budget of around like $35,000 to $55,000. So criticizing the production, I think, is a bit redundant. Sure, I mean, it does have a raw, grainy look that is, consistent for the most part with all of Damien Leone's films due to George Stuber doing all of the cinematography work. He worked on the upcoming Terrifier 3 as well, and I'm really stoked on that. I'm glad that Damien has kept the same cinematographer throughout his entire career, giving it that consistent look. And the reviews for Terrifier were, as you can imagine, pretty polarizing. Most critics praised the practical effects and inventive kills, but many criticized the lack of character development, which I've already kind of mentioned, so much that some seem to not even really be able to get past it. And even Leone himself has expressed regret about that, but he was still learning as a filmmaker and as a writer. So this movie is his tribute to 70s grindhouse, slasher, and giallo films. And as you might expect from me at this point, I don't have a ton of criticism here. I love this movie. It's a fun slasher done just the way that I like it. Don't get me wrong, I do agree for the most part with most of, if not all of the criticism, but it all works for me. I see the points, but I don't necessarily, that criticism doesn't bother me. Everything here works for me on a personal level, We all have our personal tastes. Damien Leone's creativity and drive, and David Howard Thornton's, talents and entertaining portrayal of Art the Clown is really all I need. I consider Terrifier a cult classic already at this point that has and will stand the test of time. So I'm giving Terrifier, solid 8 out of 10. Which of the Terrifier films are your favorites? Are you excited for, part 3 like I am? I read an interview with Damien Leone from 2018 where he mentions he didn't have any plans to do more than 3 Terrifier films. This was obviously 6 years ago, but I hope he keeps the franchise going because I need it, and I need more Art the Clown. Cheers, guys.